Good afternoon. I'm Ed Pozzuoli, President of Tripp Scott, and we're here today with Governor Jon Huntsman in our continuing webcast series to assist our clients in being informed and making appropriate choices. So, good afternoon.
Ed, great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Governor, you have been both Governor of Utah, Ambassador to China, Ambassador to Singapore, CEO of the Huntsman Group. Tell me, what experience do you have in the specifics, other than the resume, why you should be president?
How about being a father of 7 kids?
It's a good start.
You experience everything there is in life, all the emotions, high and low. You know, I used to talk about that as governor, and people would immediately say, yeah, I get that part. You know, you can have a professional resume, but you know, there's nothing like being a dad, and hopefully a successful dad. But I do believe, Ed, that 3 things are going to be critically important in our next president. I think the voters are going to be looking for all 3. 1, private sector experience, someone who understands the fragility and the magic of the free market system. Because as far as the eye can see in the 21st century, we got to create jobs. We have no choice. I mean, this economy has hit the wall. Number 2, someone who's been a governor, a chief executive of a large organization who has a track record. We were number 1 in job creation in America as governor of Utah, best managed state in America, the most propitious and inviting environment for business, so said Forbes magazine. 3, I think someone who understands the complex and confusing nature of the world in which we live, because it's not going to get any less complex and confusing. I've lived overseas 4 times, been ambassador for my country 3 times. I think for a lot of voters out there, when they get around to it, those are the 3 elements that they're going to look at, and they're going to say, I want the box checked on all of them. And so far as I can tell, unless somebody else pops into the race, I'm the only one in this race who basically checks all 3 of those boxes.
Well, let's address specifically the unemployment situation in the United States. Right now, we're running about 9.1%. Recently, President Obama came out with his plan. I know we haven't had a full time to digest it, but let's talk about some of the plans that President Huntsman might have with respect to addressing unemployment and addressing our economy.
First of all, beyond the numbers, Ed, it's a human tragedy. Can I just say that? There are a lot of moms and dads and families out there suffering through this very difficult time. That breaks my heart. So I'm not going to talk numbers. I'm going to talk, human terms. That's kind of where we are. This isn't rocket science. I mean, we don't need to recreate the wheel. We just need to say, what is impeding job growth and our economy breaking through? Taxes. We need a big, bold tax reform effort, not half measures, not a little bit temporary here, temporary there. We need fundamental restructuring of the tax code, just like I did as governor of the state of Utah. We need to phase out the deductions, the loopholes, the corporate welfare, and buy down the rate and broaden the base. It's what I put forward. The Wall Street Journal called it the best plan that is out there, but that's got to be coupled with real regulatory reform. Repealing Obamacare, repealing Dodd-Frank on the financial services side. That's got to be coupled as well, I believe, with energy independence, because that's a job creator like nothing else. And I believe, 4th, getting in the game from a free trade standpoint. We've got 3 free trade agreements languishing. I used to negotiate them as trade ambassador. I understand the power of free trade, and I understand how the world looks to the United States as being the beacon for hope in what typically is not a free market environment. We stand for that pillar. So I believe that those are all engines of growth for this country. They're all absolutely necessary to get us back in the game from a 21st century competitive standpoint. What I can't take, Ed, are the plans that kind of look at half steps here and there and happen. We're Americans, for heaven's sake. The economy has hit the wall. We need to be big and bold and think in ways we've never thought before about how to get back in the game.
The world is a little bit of a smaller place than it was 20 or 30 years ago. Talk about your experience in the Far East with China and Singapore, because it seems to me that we're far more interdependent. Our economy is far more interdependent with others around the world.
We just have to stop to ponder that 95% of our customers live overseas. If we're going to survive as 25% of the world's GDP, as a nation of increasingly a nation of exporters, agricultural, small business, we've got to be engaged. And we've got to remember the world is moving very, very quickly. And the one thing I like to remind people of, having lived overseas 4 times, starting in the late 1970s, I mean, I've lived in our major competitor nations like Singapore and Taiwan and China. Since the 70s and early 80s, these countries have reformed their systems. They have opened their economies more and more. They've reformed their taxes. All the while, we've done very little. So while we like to think that we are on top of the heap, the last poll on competitiveness would suggest otherwise. We've dropped to number 5. and falling, I might add. So we can't rest on our laurels, as they say. The rest of the world, at least competitive nations, they've gone through a remaking of themselves. We need to get back in the game and remember that the speed of business is the speed of light right now.
Right.
And you can transact things instantaneously. There are billionaires popping up every day in China. They're moving toward more and more of a free market environment. We don't want to be excluded from the uplift in the global economy. We just can't rest and expect that we're gonna hang in there. We've got to fight for every ounce of market share that we get and for every mile that we gain in terms of our competitiveness. So when I look at the world, when I look at what needs to be done as President of the United States, I'm thinking in terms of the world and our position in the world. Where we are today, second decade in the 21st century, and where we're going to need to be by 2050 to remain the preeminent, most competitive nation in the world, to have our economy reformed and our educational system reformed such that we can actually do what needs to be done to compete.
And the plan that you've proposed with simplifying the tax, personal income tax code, elimination of the alternative minimum tax, getting rid of capital gains, lowering the corporate rate, dealing with regulatory. How does that impact to the average voter? How does that impact jobs? Because it's one thing to talk about simplifying the tax code, getting rid of regulation, but how does that translate to competitive jobs for Americans?
Rates are lowered, and there's a sense of predictability that is infused into the tax code. I did it as governor, and I saw the uplift that it gave the economy. And if I hadn't been there and done that and seen exactly what a fixed tax code can do for you, I wouldn't be advocating it today. But the business community, Ed, is crying out for predictability. Tell us where we're going to be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, and let us go to work. And with all the temporary measures here and there, without any clarity in terms of where regulation and our tax policy will be, we're stuck in neutral. We can't even kick this motorcycle into first gear, and that's a crying shame.
For those clients of ours who don't know much of your record in Utah, please talk through, because I'm a big believer in performance, or past performance really dictates a lot more in political life than promises. So your past performance, please define that for us.
I've been elected twice, governor of the state of Utah. Before that, I had different public service jobs and in business. But
Talk
as governor,
about the results in Utah.
But as governor, I ran on an economic revitalization plan in 2004. We had 10 points, including tax reform, healthcare reform, regulatory reform, several other things. We got every single one of those 10 things done. The results were historic tax reform, historic tax cuts, the best managed state in America, so said the Pew Foundation, the best place in which to do business, so said Forbes magazine. We became the fastest growing state in America at 2.4% unemployment at the time because we had jobs. People were fleeing California and Nevada and Arizona to move to our state because they wanted the dignity of a job. And that taught me a very important lesson about what is important to people. Ran for re-election in 2008. I got 80% of the vote. All the voters want, they want to know what you're going to do. They want to know what your vision is, and then they want to hold you accountable. Everyone should look at a candidate's history to see where they're likely to be in the future. Don't measure it on words and rhetoric and hot air. Measure it on where somebody has been and what they've done.
And the conservative principles that you used as governor, of the state of Utah, are those the same principles that you're sticking with and being consistent with today running for president?
Absolutely. I'm the same guy I was, as I mentioned, at the Reagan Library for the debate a couple of nights ago, the same guy that flew on Air Force One as a young, early 20-year-old when I was Ronald Reagan's, one of his advanced men. Same guy then as I am today. I'm pro-life, always have been, pro-Second Amendment, pro-growth. I believe in freedom, first and foremost. You know, get government out of the way, let the American people, based on freedom, pursue life, liberty, and happiness. That's what this country is all about.
I've read that various magazines have said that you're the candidate that the Obama administration fears most. Why do you think that is?
Because we come from a background that speaks to results. We come from a background that speaks to having won Republicans, and my re-election, almost all the independents, I got more Democrats than my Democratic opponent. We're a proven vote winner, because I think we're honest and honorable and straight up with the people who we represent. People just want a common sense, practical discussion. They don't want hot air. They don't want catfighting. They don't want political rhetoric. They just want a vision, and they want a leader who can take them there. Tell folks where you're going to go and do it. And you cut out the political sideshows, you cut out the political circus acts, and you just go to work for the people.
Well, on encouraging that the circus moves out of Washington, I'm going to end here. Governor, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
A real honor.
Thank you.